fellas. There are some wins in the UFC that just tend to be way more satisfying than others. Ones where there's fighters that are trash talking in the build-up or doing too much in the build-up and then they end up getting slept in the fight or losing the fight. And we're going to be taking a look at a few examples today. If I missed any out, please let me know, because I'm not going to be able to go through every single, satisfying matchup in the UFC. But again, if there's any that, I missed out or things that are blatantly obvious that I should have put in the video, let me know. But we're going in there with the first, kind of satisfying victory, which is Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. Now, this wasn't really because Kamaru Usman lost. I never really hated Kamaru Usman. I think it was more of a case of Leon Edwards was just super disrespected. Not by just the UFC, but the fans. I mean, there was a time in 2019 when Darren Till was headlining the UK, and I think Leon Edwards was on the card, or he was in the UK. Well, I don't know if he was on the card, but he was in the UK fighting. I think it was Gunnar Nelson, and he was getting booed. Leon Edwards was getting booed in that fight. So Leon Edwards, not only was he was literally disrespected in his own hometown, the fans didn't care about him, the UFC didn't care about him, because let's be completely honest right now, if Leon Edwards would have lost to Kamaru Usman, he would have just been another contender that's kind of been washed away. If Leon Edwards didn't beat Usman at UFC 278, I think it was, he wouldn't have been respected. He would have just been pushed away and brushed aside for another contender to come and fight Usman, and Leon Edwards most likely would have been forgotten. So I feel like it's kind of satisfying that Leon Edwards got the head kick after being dominated for 3 rounds, because I think he won round 1. And Usman was just getting too comfortable. Not only in the fight where he was just, he weren't really putting as much effort in, he was kind of disrespecting him, faking groin shots and things. But he was getting too comfortable as a champ. He kind of, he was used to brushing off contenders like Colby and Masvidal and even Gilbert Burns. So, he didn't really take Leon Edwards as seriously as he did. I mean, maybe he did, and maybe I'm just saying that. But I feel like he was just getting too comfortable, and Leon Edwards came up and slept him. And that head kick made him a star. Let's be honest, right, if Leon Edwards never made that head kick, he wouldn't be a huge star. And it made him a star, not only the fact that he got the head kick knockout in the last round, but also the fact it was against one of the most dominant welterweights we've ever seen in Kamaru Usman. And I feel like Usman's trash talk has finally come to an end. His trash talk was unbearable for the first fight. Well, maybe not, I mean the second fight, the rematch, and even in the third fight against Leon Edwards, he did it as well. So the fact that I don't really think we see Usman's trash talk anymore, I'm kind of glad, because his trash talk was terrible. I understand he's trying to hype up fights, but his trash talk was terrible. I mean, we're going to see him this week in the press conference with Khamzat Chimaev, because he's fighting. But I just hope his trash talk isn't as bad, because he can't talk. He can't talk. But Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman, this was a very satisfying victory for me. Like I said, not because I necessarily hate Kamaru Usman, but more for the fact that Leon Edwards was being disrespected. The UFC didn't really want him as champ, and he just slept Kamaru Usman. So that's the first one. The second one is Khabib versus Conor McGregor. I mean, do I really have to go over this one? I feel like this was the downfall of McGregor. He wasn't the same guy. This wasn't the McGregor that fought Aldo or Alvarez, the motivated McGregor, as people call it. This was kind of more of a McGregor that just, he had no, he was drinking, he didn't really take MMA seriously anymore, he didn't really know what he wanted to do. One minute he was boxing, then he was talking about he wants to fight this person. I mean, isn't that McGregor nowadays anyway? But yeah, he was talking so badly about Khabib, his religion, his family. And although the build-up was, listen, I'm not trying to shame McGregor for that. I'm not trying to say I hate McGregor for it, but it made the victory very, very satisfying when Khabib mauled him. Like, it wasn't just a close victory for Khabib. It was a mauling, took him down, demolished him with ground and pound until eventually he got a submission win over McGregor. And like I said, yeah, McGregor took the trash talk to the next level, and so many people wanted to see McGregor lose. More people probably wanted to see him win because he was a bigger star, but there were so many people that wanted to see him lose and pay for his words, because at this point in the UFC, McGregor hadn't really been humbled. I mean, he had a submission loss to Nate Diaz, but that was really it, and he ended up beating Nate Diaz in the rematch anyway. So this is the real fight that got McGregor humbled, I feel like, because after this fight, he went on to fight Cerrone, where he was a pretty nice guy to him, and then he fought Poirier in the rematch, and that was probably the nicest we've ever seen nicest we've ever seen McGregor. So this was truly the fight that humbled McGregor, and like I said, the biggest UFC fight ever. He got the most eyes on it than any other fight, and it was Conor McGregor just getting battered. And this is what Khabib is known for. This is what McGregor's known for. You find any McGregor, kind of fan, and then you go to the comment section, it's just Khabib fans reminding people that McGregor got mauled by Khabib. So this has to be a satisfying win in the UFC, just for the fact that McGregor talked so much trash to Khabib and everything that went on in the build-up. Throwing the thing at the bus. and smashing the window. Yeah, for me, this has to go down as one of the most satisfying beatdowns in the UFC. Unless you're a McGregor fan, maybe not so much. But the next one I'm going is Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya. This actually happened at the last pay-per-view, UFC 293. Yeah, this was satisfying. Adesanya was hated in the build-up. I mean, he literally got booed in his own, well, it wasn't his hometown, but he got booed in New Zealand, where he was meant to be the home crowd favourite there. Yeah, Adesanya, yeah, he wasn't liked. I feel like Adesanya just, he'd lost all his humble. I mean, he was never really humble, was he? But I don't know, I just feel like he was just becoming really irritating. Was Adesanya as the champion, you know, talking down all the contenders, talking bad about, I mean, even the Alex Pereira rematch, Alex Pereira's a fan favourite, and when Adesanya slept him, and, you know, he was disrespecting him and everything, everyone wanted to just see Adesanya lose, and his first fight back was against Sean Strickland, who's one of the most favoured fighters in the UFC. And the UFC definitely wanted to see Strickland lose this, because Adesanya's the, you know, Adesanya sells the pay-per-views, he's the star. Strickland's just another contender that tends to be good at press conferences. UFC didn't want Strickland as champion, so when Strickland went out there and beat Adesanya for 5 rounds, or maybe it was 4 because Adesanya questionably won round 2, the UFC, they didn't want Strickland as champ, and now that he's champ, I reckon the UFC are going to try and do everything they can to get Adesanya as champ again. If they end up giving Adesanya an immediate rematch, that's going to be terrible, but everyone counted out Sean Strickland. Everyone, including myself, I counted him out as well. Even if you wanted to see Sean Strickland win, no one was predicting that he was going to win. Only a few people predicted that, and the fact that not only he won, it wasn't like a last-minute knockout like Leon Edwards. It was a beatdown for 4 or 5 rounds, whatever you want to say. It was a beatdown for the entire fight, and he dominated him for the entire fight, and because of that, it was a satisfying victory. Adesanya is still one of the most hated fighters in history. I've already done it in the UFC right now, and I've already done a video of why that is, but the fact that Sean Strickland, one of the most liked fighters, just beat him down when no one thought he could, that was satisfying for me. It was a really satisfying win, so I'm going to have to say Sean Strickland for that. Then with the next one, Ilia Topuria versus Bryce Mitchell. I think it was UFC 282 this took place on the undercard, or the prelims. I don't know, I'm saying undercard, this isn't boxing, but 0-1 to Flat Earthers. Bryce Mitchell, the weird Flat Earther. He deserved this beating, and he got 0-1 Flat Earthers because Ilia Topuria went in there and battered him. Yeah, Bryce Mitchell deserved the beating. What he did to Edson Barboza, he deserved this. He just wrestle-dogged Edson Barboza at UFC, was it 272? Yeah, 272, the Masvidal card. Yeah, he just wrestle-dogged Edson Barboza, and he deserved a beatdown, and Ilia Topuria gave him a beatdown. This wasn't a close fight. On the feet, Bryce Mitchell was getting schooled, and even in grappling, where he was meant to be better, he got schooled as well. And Ilia Topuria was just showing why he's a legitimate contender. I can't lie, I don't really like Bryce Mitchell. Ilia Topuria went in there and just smoked him. The fact that anyone thought Bryce Mitchell was going to win this because of the performance he put against Edson Barboza was crazy. And it was just satisfying to see a weirdo like Bryce Mitchell get battered. And that's all there is to it, really. I wanted to see Bryce Mitchell lose, and for me, it was a satisfying victory seeing Bryce Mitchell get beaten by Ilia Topuria. And every now and then, whenever Bryce Mitchell comes out with a stupid statement, I tend to come back and look at this fight because of how dominant it was. And finally, we got a women's fight: Holly Holm versus Ronda Rousey. Yeah, this was back when Ronda Rousey thought she was an absolute killer of a fighter. She thought she would, she thought she was one of the most dominant fighters of all time, when in reality, all she had was some decent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and some judo background. Her stand-up was terrible. There's a clip of Ronda Rousey shadowboxing, and it's one of the worst shadowboxing I've ever seen. Her stand-up is like a 10-year-old. Ronda Rousey genuinely has the stand-up of a 10-year-old. There's women on the street that get into street fights that could definitely beat Ronda Rousey on the feet. I don't know, maybe it was a coach, but yeah, Ronda Rousey tried being intimidating. You know, the stare downs before the fight, the getting in people's faces, talking down on people, all that sort of stuff, thinking she's all this and that. And then she goes in there and gets demolished by Holly Holm and then knocked out. This was a very, very bad beatdown because, again, it wasn't like she just got dominated within like 3 rounds. It wasn't like she got dominated, and it wasn't like she was dominated and then got knocked out. It was she got dominated and then she got knocked out by Holly Holm. She got she got beaten down. Every time she'd go for a strike, she'd end up tripping. She was pretty much untouchable, was Holly Holm, and this victory was very, very satisfying for me. So I'm going to have to say this is one of the most satisfying victories. Ronda Rousey, and ever since this fight, she hasn't been the same. She went to go and fight Amanda Nunes, and even in that fight, she was getting battered as well. That was even worse. So this is kind of the thing that was in part of the downfall of Ronda Rousey, and it was good because, listen, although she brought ice to the sport in the women's division, and although she had decent grappling, her stand-up was terrible, and she overestimated herself, and she deserved this beating. So for me, these are the top 5 most satisfying victories in the UFC. Let me know if I've missed any fights out, but yeah, these have to go down for me, and thank you for watching.